Happy Sunday, everybody. How's it going? LSU Odyssey live in the house. In the house we will soon be moving from. Thank God. Moving to a lot better place. Somehow that's actually way cheaper and also nicer at the same time. Best of both worlds. We're very lucky to have found this place. We keep waiting for something to be like, oh, that's the catch. There's the catch. We've been waiting for the catch. We're waiting to find out what's really truly going on here. But no, it's just it's been perfect. So yeah, we're about to move in the next week. Moving over 2 different weekends. 18th and like the 25th or something. So that's gonna be crazy. But we've done that a few times. We've had no problem doing that. So, although we have never moved with a child, so that is something that might be a little bit of a difficulty. And we haven't moved, moving all the toys, moving all the cribs, all the stuff for the child. So that will be a little crazy. That will be a trial by fire type of moment. So right now, the last few days, while I've been recovering, I've been kind of putting together some of my own stuff so that my own shit is kind of out of the way and taken care of, so then we can just focus on everyone else's stuff and kind of the main big things. So moving sucks. I know. She left me roses by the stairs. We'll quote some Blink-182, who used to say, work sucks, I know. Well, moving sucks, I know. Okay. So we'll continue that weird thread there. But really why I wanted to do this show today is because I'm in the middle of an article that I'm writing. I'm usually writing like 5 or 6 freaking things that, like, some of them take me a month or 2 to finish. Some of them take me a week or 2 to finish. Some of them take a day or 2. Some of them take an hour or 2. And we're kind of all going in all these different directions. And we try and kind of finish things as a priority of, this is the one that will, we got to finish first. This is the one that, because of this event, we got to finish this at this point. Whatever. You get the picture. And what I'm writing about is how, Brian Kelly, without playing a football game, without his LSU Tigers needing to take the field, has just had easily his best week at LSU. I mean, am I remiss to say that? And it's not just Lamar Brown. It's not just Trenton Henderson. You signed 2 5-stars at a major position of need. The defensive line, defensive front, kind of all together. You can't stop the run. You can't get more than 33 sacks in a season. You generate a lot of pressure, but you don't finish the sacks. Then there's some games where you get no pressure and you get bullied as a defensive line in front of the world. Well, Kelly's tried to make sure that the physicality aspect is there for this team. We can't get let down in that department again. Brian Kelly's kind of doing whatever possible to make sure that can happen by retaining guys like Kevin Peoples, by hiring guys like a Kyle Williams who will be more meat and potatoes. He'll be more about drilling the fundamentals into these kids, and that's actually what they need the most. They're a talented specimen. They've got all the sauce, right? But they don't have any of the actual meat to their game. The pursuit, the hustle, the heart, the effort, the hands, the technique. Kyle Williams, Kevin Peoples, fantastic hires. I could actually see Kevin Peoples becoming LSU's defensive coordinator down the line. That's how well him and Brian Kelly have worked together, and that's how well those two get on. So you can see that there's not only, cohesion within the staff, there's cohesion and friendship within the staff, and they enjoy working together. And that's a very key thing. And it's not just the fact that you signed 2 5-stars in a week. It's really, this is Kelly's best week at LSU ever, because it's about the signs that we're seeing, right? It's the signs. It's the dominoes that are falling into place. It's the stars that are starting to align here. You just stole Sam Petito from Ohio State. You've got one of the biggest player favorite members of that 2019 staff, and maybe only LSU fans know him, or USC fans know him. And maybe he's not that known throughout the country, but to those who do know him, they absolutely would die for this guy, take a bullet for this guy. Sir Jeff Martin, absolute badass, comes back to the program after being at USC for 4.5 years, right after the 2019 season. But Sam Petito as well. Kelvin Bolden from Ole Miss, another big move. Ole Miss staffer who worked with Austin Thomas as well. Austin Thomas is the man making all these moves, pulling all these triggers. But Sam Petito is really the one that got me going, because I floated that question to a source very close to the hiring, and one of them didn't respond at all, which told me a few things. The other did with, it'd be very hard to get him out of Ohio State. He didn't really want to come back to LSU, come back to Louisiana, because he thinks he was screwed over by LSU. They didn't give him the opportunities he was wishing for after Saban left, blah, 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 all this stuff. He's a Saban guy. He's an Alabama guy. He's no way. He loves to kill LSU. He's not going to come back to LSU, but he wants to hurt LSU. All this stuff I had heard about Petito, all these kind of legends of the fall with Sam Petito, it was all bullshit, because all it took was Austin Thomas. All it took was Austin Thomas to get Sam Petito back to Baton Rouge. And that's the thing about all these moves. Whether it's Jeff Martin from USC, whether it's Sam Petito from Ohio State, whether it's Kelvin Bolden from Ole Miss, whether it's securing Lamar Brown, Trenton Henderson, and then you got DeAnthony Lafayette as well as another front seven, absolute wrecker, game wrecker. With all these moves happening in such a quick amount of time, it's more about the signal of intent from Brian Kelly that is getting fans just going wild. We just saw LSU, Jay Johnson, like absolute savages, pummel through the College World Series and make their case as an absolute dynasty, as the absolute best program in baseball. And I remember hearing LSU fans kind of, I wish baseball season was going on. I don't want to talk about football. We even had Carl the Cat. And I love Carl. We're going to have Carl on most likely tomorrow as well. But Carl, he didn't want to talk about football too much. He wanted to talk about baseball. And a lot of people were more about the baseball program and, LSU's always been baseball, screw football. I don't even want to go to football season. Football season. People can say whatever they want. I saw it all. So many people are telling me, I don't want to read your articles right now, bro. I don't want you tagging me in your stuff right now. It's still baseball season. But now they're going crazy for that football team, huh? Now they're going crazy for that football program, because Brian Kelly made moves that said, we're not just here to win, we're going to win. Because when you bring in a guy like Sam Petito from Ohio State, you're not just really expanding what you can do recruiting-wise or helping maintain your roster by bringing in a much-loved, much-fabled championship football mind like Sam Petito. You're also weakening Ohio State big time. You're weakening the defending champions. The defending national champions, Ohio State, now have lost probably Ryan Day's right-hand man. Just, boom, see ya. And I doubt they saw that coming. And it's a huge move. It's a huge move because you're weakening Ohio State, defending national champions, who also do at times take some guys from the state of Louisiana. When you get Jeff Martin pictured here in that 2019 national championship locker room, when you bring a guy like Jeff Martin back, you're weakening USC with one of the best recruiting guys they even have on that staff. It's just incredible. It's just incredible what Brian Kelly has done, what Austin Thomas has done. It is incredible what this group have done, this staff. But make no mistake, all these moves will be for naught if LSU cannot deliver on the field this year. If LSU fail in the biggest moments this year, in the biggest games, on the biggest stages of this season. And you and I damn well know that, okay? And it sucks that that's the way the game is. But we'd have it no other way, would we? We would have it no other way. And LSU football have a major chance here. You can lose 2 games and still get into the playoff with the best quarterback in the country, some of the best playmakers on defense in the country, a cavalcade of receiving, absolute elite receiving targets, probably the deepest and most talented tight end room in LSU history, what should be among the best running back tandems in recent LSU memory, an O-line that has big-time questions but actually might have bigger upside as a run-blocking unit than last year's group, which even had a top 5 pick among them, and all were drafted. So, point is, if Brian Kelly and this LSU squad this season can keep all of their big-time recruits off the field through signing day, that's not number 1 to me. That's probably number 3, number 4. But number 1 is have a strong season performance, because that will take care of everything else. You'll keep those recruits if you have a great season. And LSU doesn't just, championship mandate, It's more of you have to be competing. You have to be on the doorstep. LSU should be there. LSU should be competing every year. LSU should be right on the doorstep of winning or competing for a title. And if they're not, something's going wrong. Seriously wrong. And something's very dysfunctional. And we've seen that dysfunction. This staff, this roster, the way everything is set up right now, LSU not only has a very bright future ahead if they can figure out the quarterback position after Nussmeier leaves, but they are literally loaded with probably the most rock star filled staff in college football right now. I mean, I'm not just so dialed into LSU, I ignore every other team. I know the names. A lot of these guys on other teams I talk to as well. It's not like we're just dialed in with LSU. And some of these coaches actually coached at LSU for a while, then have gone somewhere else, and we're still talking to them. We know that other staffs are talented too. Other staffs are stacked too. We get it. Not like this LSU staff is. I mean, whenever there's a serious question, you lose Bo Davis. defensive line coach. What, the 10th D-line coach in like 11 years or whatever it was? I remember we did a post about that, and we had the exact numbers. We'll look at that up. But and what do? You go and you get Kyle Williams, which, okay, he's a former high school coach, and maybe it doesn't look like it'll be a home run hire at the outset. Maybe he struggles for a few seasons, even Kyle Williams. But you know that guy's going to be a fantastic coach at the end of the day. You know he's going to figure it out at the end of the day. And I think it'll be sooner rather than later. I don't think Kyle Williams will be struggling too much. My point is, whenever there's a question, there's been a big answer by Brian Kelly. We lose Bryce Underwood. The entire fan base is shitting on Brian Kelly. The entire fan base is losing it, saying, fire Joe Sloan. These guys are worthless. Get them out of here. Everyone was just going nuts. We don't have the money to compete. Blah, blah, blah. Like we should have thrown $12 million at a kid who'd never played a down of college football. Like we should have done that. A kid who only played high school football in Michigan. And we should have thrown $12 million at him, right? No. That's what a program does that needs cachet, that needs something, that is going to need to start a freshman like Bryce Underwood. We weren't in that situation with Garrett Nussmeier. We had Garrett Nussmeier for another season. We didn't need to start Bryce Underwood this year. We weren't going to pay him $12 million. We didn't need him that bad. And guess what? Sometimes fans need to see the bigger picture, because losing Bryce Underwood was the best thing that could have happened. Because now you had the money to afford 4, 5, maybe even 6 top players. Probably more than that, probably 7 or 8. You have no worries or BS going with Garrett Nussmeier about his spot being under threat from Bryce Underwood or some BS like that in the offseason, with the media kind of pushing those kind of narratives, or fans saying, we need a running mobile quarterback, getting us out of there. Like Underwood is so mobile. Really, losing Bryce Underwood was such a great thing for the program. So, I mean, and not only after that, but what does Kelly do, right, after we lose Bryce Underwood? He makes damn sure we have no worries and absolutely secure DJ Pickett. Like, absolutely make damn sure we get DJ Pickett. Oh, and he was the 5-star. He was the true freshman that, hey, we might be starting at corner. He's a 5-star. He's a superstar that this team actually really desperately needed this year over Bryce Underwood even. And, Bryce Underwood could be a fantastic quarterback at Michigan. That might be the case. And maybe we'll never know the answer to whether he could have delivered at LSU or not. But I'm almost glad LSU doesn't have to find out the answer to that question. Because imagine what would have happened if LSU had spent $12 million on a player like that. The rest of the roster, maybe we have 3 less of those elite transfers that we pulled in. 4 less of those elite transfers that we pulled in. Some of these big position groups are affected by that offensive line, receiver, places on defense, defensive line, safety. We don't have A.J. Halsey. We don't have Mansour Delane, maybe. Maybe we don't have Bernard Gooden on the D-line. Maybe we don't have Patrick Payton, Jack Pyburn, Barry Brown. Maybe you get a few of these guys, but you don't get all of them. If you get Bryce Underwood, that's for sure. So you've got to wonder where things would have gone with Bryce Underwood and how it would have been. But I'm just glad that LSU isn't gonna have to go down that road and worry about that. And in that way, this really has been Brian Kelly's best week at LSU. Even concerning that he beat Alabama, number 8 Alabama, with a 2-point conversion in overtime in an epic moment. The stadium, crashed onto the field. Brian Kelly was literally could have been Saint Kelly at that point. Of course, things drastically changed after LSU got destroyed by a Shane and Texas A&M just a week later. But for that week, that was Brian Kelly's probably best week at LSU until now. And now it's about, hey, there's a 12-team playoff. You don't have to just only lose one game, or if you lose more than one game, you're screwed. You can lose multiple games and still maybe even get an SEC title game, but at least get into the college football playoff, especially with the schedules LSU has. And you can still have another bite at the apple. And in a scenario like that, LSU are going to get more championships. You know that. You have a feeling about that LSU, you put them in the postseason more, they will deliver. And the fact that college football has never had this kind of postseason setup is kind of sad, because really, if it had, LSU would have more championships. Even in some years, you'd be shocked. I really do believe that. You get LSU into some of these tournaments, they're going to outlast everybody else. They're going to have the goods and deliver the goods at the right time. I've seen this way too many times. When LSU were on the biggest stages, unless it's week 1 of the last 5 years, other than that, when LSU are really on those biggest stages, have to win, have to have it, national championship games. Almost always we deliver. Whereas, Ohio State, Oklahoma, there's a ton of these programs that lose so many championship games and have so many bad moments right there before the world. So many pull your pants down moments. When LSU get into these type of postseason moments, they usually deliver championships in all sports. So my point is really, Brian Kelly, this isn't just about some recruiting wins or some coaching hires. What Brian Kelly's done this week is about putting together a staff, a roster, a group of absolute elite men who are ready and committed to join together and win a national championship, bring a national championship back to Baton Rouge for the first time since 2019. And when you look at this roster, when you look at this squad, this staff, it's not only more than possible. I'm actually going to be disappointed this year if this team doesn't win a championship, no matter what their record is, because you look at the college football landscape around them. This is the time to do it. Once again, another weaker year in college football. I thought there were going to be other teams that were going to reload and do some of the same things LSU did this offseason. No. This was the year a lot of these teams kind of hung back, used the money to retain rosters, but didn't really get much better. LSU has to take advantage of that. This is the year to win a national championship under Brian Kelly. This is the year to win that first national championship under Brian Kelly. You have all these assemblies of staff now that know how to do this. Jeff Martin, key figure of the locker room, keeping that locker room together. a vast locker room full of a lot of different personalities, that 2019 locker room. A lot of star power in that locker room. Things could have gone to hell fast without guys like Jeff Martin. You take a guy like Jeff Martin out of that locker room and look what happened in the next year. You have Jeff Martin in that locker room, none of that crap happens. None of it. You just brought him back on a staff that already has a guy like Sherman Wilson. Those guys are going to be great together. Sam Petito, you know how many rings that man has, how much pedigree he has, even up until this last season with Ohio State. His years with Saban at Alabama, his years with Saban at LSU. It's just a big statement of intent. We're coming for you. We're coming for it all. And it starts week 1 against Clemson, which we will be previewing in our next big article. Our next article is going to continue kind of what we're talking about here, kind of the more deeper discussion around this. But the next one after that will be discussing kind of more in depth the Clemson game and why it's so significant. As if we have to tell everyone why it's significant. As if we have to let you know that a top 10 battle between two likely Heisman finalists on the road at the fake Death Valley, at the imposter Tigers. It's with the methed out Tiger mascot guy running around, things can get weird. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy game. That game, week 1 at the fake Death Valley, that's going to be literally. That's going to be literally like being at Fear and Loathing Las Vegas times 15. If anyone takes, microdosing or anything like don't do that day if you're at that game, because you're going to be seeing some crazy shit. Is it Brian Kelly's best week at LSU? Is it Brian Kelly's best week at LSU? Is it? I think so. I absolutely think so. Well, let's get to our comments, which I guys, I'm so sorry. I'm never trying to ignore comments or something. I just get into this vibe and I just forget. And I'm sorry. It's stupid of me. Brock Heimel says, losing Underwood lit the fire and galvanized the troops. It was a blessing in disguise. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. It was huge. I just think it's so funny that so many people barely even wanted to talk football or even wanted to pay attention to the football program, even after LSU baseball was done for a week or two. People were like, no, LSU football scares me. We're not going to be good. And it's like, okay, if the team's disappointing, we're going to be moving on from Kelly. That's quite clear. But what you got is an all-in situation where everyone's all in. Kelly's gotten exactly what he needs. There is no excuse that is possible. No excuse. Grant Freeman says, yeah, a switch flipped after the Underwood debacle. The right people said, hell nah. What's up, Grant? How you doing, brother? Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, you just heard us talk about it. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about we're going to talk about how the Underwood thing made this all switch. But really, it's such a big point. Such a big pivot point, really. They lost the number 1 quarterback in the country. in very embarrassing circumstances to a dude who is much like me, except he has millions and millions of dollars. He is literally an independent media company owner who's kind of a loudmouth. And he's kind of controversial, and he's kind of polarizing. Dave Portnoy. We lost a quarterback, a 5-star quarterback, to him and Larry Ellison's wife. Not even Michigan. We lost a 5-star quarterback to those two. Maybe I can't blame people for wanting Joe Sloan's head on a pike at that time. But, I mean, I'm such a Joe Sloan fan. And Joe Sloan he's a friend of the show. Even though he'll only do an interview with Jacob Verdon, I guess, or only be allowed to do an interview with Jacob Verdon and not one with us. Our interview request, I guess, was ignored by LSU media for some reason. Who knows? Probably because we're not in Louisiana, we're in Utah. And they don't want, interviews over online or whatever. Who knows? Maybe they're like only face-to-face interviews for our coaches. I don't know. Some communication would be nice. But, they wanted Joe Sloan's head on a pike. And I remember we were critical at the time of the Underwood loss, but I remember also making, statements about, hey, we could get a transfer portal quarterback that you and I have never heard of, you and I will never anticipate coming around in a year or two. That is going to change this whole program around, and we're not even going to think of Bryce Underwood again. And we would have spent $12 million of the nearly 15 that was in total allotted for the program this year. So you would have spent 12 of the $15 million allotted for LSU to rebuild their roster, retain players, sign recruits. You would have wasted 12 of that. Well, not wasted. We don't know how good Bryce Underwood's going to be, but you would have put 12 of that 15, roughly 14 point something, 15 million, 12 of that million into one player, a freshman quarterback who had never taken a snap. Not only that, never taken a snap outside of the state of Michigan. No wonder LSU were never going to come close to doing that. And really, LSU spending even $5 million on the kid would have been a little crazy, but that's probably what that deal would have been when all was said and done. And LSU pulled out of that. And people are, oh, wait, no, LSU quit here. LSU can't compete financially. LSU can't compete. And it's like, no. LSU could have thrown that money. LSU could have thrown. The point is, we want to do this in a way where we're not held hostage for $10 million by every damn kid that comes out of the portal or every damn kid that's on the recruiting trail. Because look at Texas. Look at Texas A&M. Look at Ohio State. The big marquee spender programs. Right now, they're in a situation where they're like, financially, like huffing and puffing, like we can't keep up with the market. And it's like, you guys created the bloated prices of the market. You guys created this scenario where a kid can be a 3.5, basically 4-star, but you guys really need him in a position of great need. He's a local. And now he can really say, yeah, not unless you give me $2.5 million. And yeah, many teams can just laugh or whatever and just say, yeah, we're not paying you that. But most of them are going to pay that. Even for the kids who aren't worth it, and we find out later weren't good enough. Because simply the idea of losing the player somewhere else and becoming a strength somewhere else within conference per se, going to a rival, is just too much for some of these people to take, and they have to make some type of move. And so maybe it's not 2.5, but they settle around 1.8, 1.7. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is a lot of money being thrown around, and there's a lot of kids that maybe shouldn't be able to command some of these price tags. But once again, this is the market that Texas A&M, Texas, Ohio State have created. This is the market. USC. Someone's saying it right here, but Damian Obi, what's up, brother? How you doing, Damian? How's your Sunday going, sir? Thank you for watching this with us. Damian says, not only Bryce, referring to Bryce Underwood, not only Bryce, but Jakeem Stewart, who went to USC. Absolutely great point, Damian. He continues, both of them are difference makers. One will get developed, the other will just be a check. Dude, that's truth. That's truth. I don't think both of those guys become busts. I think that would be insane. But I think, in a way, those are two big bullets dodged by LSU. Think of what would have happened if we had spent however much millions it was for Jakeem Stewart that USC paid. We wouldn't have been able to do half of the moves we've just done to secure and solidify this D-line, where this LSU defensive line, in the present and the future, is in the best shape it's been in probably since 2019. And there's been times you've had some great individuals, but you haven't had a really strong collective. LSU has that now. And they've got the right coaches to coach these guys up. And so you made that move to not get Bryce Underwood. You made that move to not go for the big money in Jakeem Stewart. So criticized, so poo-pooed. LSU were absolutely destroyed for those moves. And the entire time I was called a BK apologist, even though we've gone after BK for many things. But because we stuck up for him with these two deals, we were absolutely destroyed by some people like Twin Priv or James, LSU superfan. And I was like, these aren't the kids you go for. It doesn't matter how many stars, or if you get every 5-star, you get every play. Like, no. You don't throw the money down for everyone, or you're going to be held hostage. LSU can't get held hostage now by players. They know that can't work. The only way that can work at LSU is if you have a damn good season, they absolutely need you for the next year, but they start being cheap and they're not going to pay. Then a player can do that type of stuff. Then a player can negotiate. Then a player can say, hey, look, I'm flirting with going to this place. But a player who's never played a snap coming to LSU and just, I'm going to blackmail you into giving me $3 million as a freshman. Yeah. There's the door. There's the door. Damian Obi says, Bryce would have done better here, but how can you turn down $12 million? No. He should not have turned down $12 million. He should have taken that money. But at the end of the day, they're not going to pay this kid $12 million. They're going to cheapen him out. They're going to pay him probably 9 at the most, 8 at the most. And he's going to a program that really disintegrated everything that was great about it and what made it a championship winner again in 2023, just right as he was going there. And that was one of the big selling points that made him stay committed to LSU for so long. He knew Michigan was, a great program at the time, but he didn't visit them once during that championship season, not go to a single game, nothing. Why? Because he knew it was a flash in the pan, and he had nothing to do with it. He was no part of it. And Michigan's staff and those people, they didn't want him a part of it either. They didn't invite him either. It was like almost like it was settled that he was going to LSU. And that's when Dave Portnoy got involved. All LSU has to do this year, now that you've got all these pieces in place, now that you've got all these recruits, a real good nucleus for this class, LSU have to have a damn good season. It is not. It is a mandate now. They have to have a banging season. It is a mandate. It's a mandate now. It's a mandate. Okay. You got to keep this rolling, and you got to keep all these kids. You can't let any of them be, getting your ass kicked by A&M again. Can't happen. Not in front of Lamar Bretton. It cannot happen. Letting Kalen DeBoer do that to us? Can't happen. Cannot happen. You have a strong season. Everything here takes care of itself for the future, for the present. Recruiting-wise, retaining players off the field. But number one outside of that, you have to get a quarterback from this class. Yes, Michael Van Buren has multiple years of eligibility. He's a great transfer portal signing. However, Colin Hurley is the guy I like for the future as well. And I think he's going to need that year to kind of recover from what he's been through in that car accident. And so that will probably likely be this year. Good to see that he's back 100% practicing and there's no issues. But I think Colin Hurley going forward is going to be that starter for LSU once Nussmeier leaves. I really do believe a lot in Colin Hurley. At the same time, you have to get a quarterback for this class. You cannot have 2 straight classes where you didn't have a quarterback. 2025, we lose out on Bryce Underwood at the 11th hour. So it wasn't just robbing us of the number 1 quarterback in the country, 5-star. That also robbed us of actually having a quarterback in the class. LSU got to figure this out, where we've got to find that quarterback to kind of solidify this room. Colin Hurley, Michael Van Buren, Juwan Johnson has been in the room as well. How seriously do you take Juwan Johnson as a future quarterback prospect at LSU? I take him seriously at that level. I take him seriously as a quarterback prospect for LSU. I do. And let me tell you why. You've seen Juwan Johnson deliver on the field and look like he belongs. He belongs. There's no question about it. Just like how I felt with Colin Hurley in the rare moments that we've seen him in a few spring games, stuff like that. He throws the football like an absolute madman, Colin Hurley. And he has the presence of, I belong. I belong. I'm a gamer. I belong. It's a mental thing that I look for. I always look for it, almost number 1 before anything else. I'm looking for those mental attributes. Because if they have the mental attributes, you can coach a player to do anything. Well, natural ability, natural born talent can only take you so far without work ethic. If you have the work ethic, if you have the mentality, you can accomplish damn near anything. You can push yourself to go to any type of level. But obviously, you're going to have that football talent already there, naturally born in too, because you're playing good college football already. Juwan Johnson, he has something about him, maybe not as a passer right now that I can see visually, but as a dual threat freak machine. Juwan Johnson could be something special. And this year, we might see a big preview of that. In some big moments, down in the red zone, some big calls where what is he going to do? Is he going to throw it? Is he going to keep it? He's in the Wildcat. He's got Trades Green open. Maybe, am I going to go for that move? Or am I going to take it in with the run? Like, he's going to have to make some smart decisions in these plays, because he's going to have multiple options. And sometimes both will look good for just that little bit of a window, and then that window gets shut like that with the speed of the SEC and the defenses. But that's the thing about Juwan Johnson. I love his dual threat ability. I love it. And I think Juwan Johnson has something to offer LSU, not only in the future, but in the present. He could be that quarterback, but you still have to get another quarterback from this class. You have to sign a quarterback as part of the 2026 class. You simply must. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Damian Obi says this season would look different if not for the A&M loss. This last season would look different if not for the A&M loss. Well, we also lost to Florida, though, brother, and got absolutely shellacked by Alabama at home. So both were so bad. I just, it was, ugh. All of those defeats were so just grotesque. Just grotesque, brother. Let's see, what else are these comments? I'm trying to load up these comments. Here we go. Damon Obi says, oh my god, these comments, I'm trying to get them up here. Can I get every one of these things? There we go. Brock 100, or this will turn into the Miles era 2.0 no matter what. Next year will be an offensive step back. This year needs icing to sustain that blow momentum. I really do think, like, next year it still might be a strong year. But I don't think you win a national championship next year unless something changes at the quarterback position. Like, could Colin Hurley win us a national championship in his first year starting? Hell yes, he could. Is that something I'm going to bet the house on right now? We have to see that young man recover as well. And we have to see things go his way to make sure that he gets into the position to be the starting quarterback. Could we win a national championship next year with Michael Van Buren starting? I'm a little more iffy on that. Could we win a national championship with Juwan Johnson starting next year? No. Like, I'm just going to say it right now. Like, no. Like, a lot of these guys are still very young in their development. And so, yes, maybe they could have multiple years starting for LSU too, like Garrett Nussmeier, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Zach Mettenberger before them. That's fine. But 3 years starting for a guy like Michael Van Buren, I'm not so down with that. LSU have to figure out who is going to be the quarterback for the future after Garrett Nussmeier, and that's going to take some doing. That's going to take some tinkering, some figuring out. But I think they're going to get that right, and I think it's probably not going to be someone who's on the team right now. I think it might be someone who's either in the portal or someone LSU are going to recruit and bring onto the program who's going to take over that job. I think that might be where it's at. I would love to see, my personal preference, I would love to see Colin Hurley in a perfect world step into that role next year and start for LSU and lead us to glory. But LSU are going to lose a lot of key pieces next year. Let's not sugarcoat that. LSU have to keep this rolling into next year, and they have to retain the Whit Weekses of this team. They have to retain some of the guys that might stay another year. You know, you have to really retain these guys this year. You cannot lose some of these guys. Like, some of the names you can't afford to lose. It kind of scares you. Like, you really can't lose Whit Weeks after 3 years. You really can't. You have to keep him for a 4th year. If he's going to go, he's going to go. But I think you can convince him to stay one more season to play alongside his younger brother, Zach. I think you can do that. I think he loves college life in LSU that much. But if he wants to go, he's going to go. So you're going to need the cash. You're going to need the resources. You're going to need the players. You're going to need a lot more oomph going into the future here. And so LSU are loading up on the recruiting trail, getting the best type of players. The Trenton Hendersons, the Lamar Browns, the Tristan Keys. You've got to hold on to them by having a strong season this year. Whether you win a championship or not, okay, but you at least have to deliver a strong, competitive, championship contending season. Or else this will likely never happen under Brian Kelly if you can't do that this year. I'm just going to say that because I think I'm almost satisfied in being correct that if Brian Kelly couldn't get over 7-8 wins with this team, this roster this year, without like massive injuries, then he's never going to win a championship at LSU. I'm confident, I believe in saying that. You couldn't win one with Jaden Daniels, you couldn't win one with Garrett Nussmeier, and this roster around him, the defense has been really, it would reverberate quite a big story. And you know how the media love to attack Kelly and they love to make Kelly look bad. So they will not miss an opportunity to hammer Brian Kelly if he loses some of these games. Even if LSU just lose these 2 games and they still make the playoff and still have like a strong season, he will get crushed if LSU show up week 1 and get destroyed by Clemson. Aren't even ready to play. He will get destroyed, annihilated if LSU show up to A&M once again. A&M come into our house this year and absolutely own us on the ground. We can't stop a running quarterback in some of these games. Again, that will happen if that becomes the case. Every LSU fan notices the patterns. We know what this team has to improve on. We know what this team simply must fix to take that next level. They've done everything off the field to take that next step, to show that we are taking that next level. Now is the time for it to come together, to all align on the field, and for this team to really go to that next level, go into beast mode, and stay there. It's possible. More than possible. Let's see some more of our comments here. Damian Obi. Damn, Damian, I like that you have a lot to say, my brother. Trying to get some of your comments up here. I'm doing this on my phone, and it's being annoying. Let's see here. I tried to even send a comment to make that easier. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's fine. Let me scroll. Damian Obi says there are a couple of red shirts now that are ready. He can get at least to the semifinals. LSU will be at heights that we couldn't think of. I think so, but also let's be real here. This team doesn't win a national championship. I think it's really gonna bother us. I think it's something we will kind of like Jaden Daniels will be like, well, how did that happen, man? How did we not win a championship with a freak like Garrett Nussmeier throwing the football? Like just kind of my feelings about it. But this team are going to have multiple bites of the apple because ooh, that's a good comment. Damian Obi says Elijah Haven is a must next year, and BK Hate Noise will disappear. There's talk of Elijah Haven being that guy for LSU. 2027 class quarterback. It's a year away though, like he would maybe for the future, yes, but will Joe Sloan still be here? It's just, I don't know. It's kind of just so far into the ether for me to think of. Brock Heimel says Hurley will be good if he gets the chance. Yeah, I agree. He needs the opportunities. Kind of get into that flow. Let's see here. Well, everybody, I got to get back to writing, get back to packing, but I just wanted to do this kind of show about how this is a strong coup here from Brian Kelly. And they need to take advantage of the fact that this is a weak-ass college football landscape this season. And some of these teams, some of these programs, they can't throw down like the amount of money that they were wanting to, that they were thinking they could this year because of all that they had spent before. Ole Miss is one of those teams as well. Big spenders under Austin Thomas in 2023/2024, and they couldn't deliver. They choke. Now they couldn't really afford to throw that money around this time. Texas, same boat. Ohio State, same boat. LSU have thrown that money around, but they've done it intentionally and with purpose with each buy. And these big moves with Petito, Jeff Martin, Bolden, strong trio coming into LSU ops there. Lamar Brown, Trenton Henderson, 2 5-stars in 1 week. Brian Kelly can't sign 5 stars. Brian Kelly can't recruit. Brian Kelly. Yeah, it looks like Brian Kelly just took a shit all over your theories. So Better luck next time, fool. Like, Brian Kelly's building something here, whether people hate him or love him. I kind of sympathize with Brian Kelly on that, because there's a lot of things Brian Kelly does that he just gets shit for zero reason, where it's like, no matter what Brian Kelly says here, people just hate this guy for some reason. Like, some people just hate this guy. And they'll never see him as not this type of, East Coast, elitist, wealthy, like uptight, rich, political, powerful, kind of hoity-toity boomer type of guy. The reality is a lot more nuanced. The reality is a lot more gray. As someone who's spoken to Brian Kelly, as someone who's asked Brian Kelly questions before, as someone who's been in rooms with Brian Kelly, as someone who's watched Brian Kelly coach away from, cameras and commentators, I can tell you this: Brian Kelly is not the coach you think he is. And just kind of open your eyes a little bit more, and I think he might surprise you a bit. At the same time, let it not be mistaken whatsoever. A large portion of this success for Brian Kelly and these Tigers, this program, under his, Scott Woodward, Austin Thomas's watch, a lot of these successes are because he has hired the right people and delegated for them to go take over and kick ass. Frank Wilson. Where would this program be without Frank Wilson? Cortez Hankton. Where would this program be without Cortez Hankton? Austin Thomas. Sherman Wilson. There is so much talent on this team. Brad Davis, you've kept him for 5 years at LSU. 5 years at LSU for Brad Davis. Who thought that was possible? Who in the hell thought that would be possible? Keeping Brad Davis at LSU for 5 years. Keeping Cortez Hankton at LSU for 4. Joe Sloan at LSU for 4. Frank Wilson for 4 more years at LSU. I never really envisioned Frank Wilson leaving again. I thought Frank Wilson would just keep staying. And I'm glad that's kind of turned out that way. Corey Raymond would have stayed the whole time if he had never been fired in the first place. He's back now. And you've got that continuity. And you're seeing what's going on since Corey Raymond's come back. Oh, our secondary's gotten better. Our DBs have gotten better. And we've upgraded in the recruiting, in the transfer portal halls, and just the overall chemistry and continuity in the secondary. Oh, really? Is that so? Well, maybe that's because Corey Raymond is not as overrated or washed up as many people thought. And yeah, we criticized Corey Raymond big time for the fact that on his way out, he didn't really recruit a strong 2020, a strong 2021, or even a 2022 class. Outside of Eli Ricks in that 2020 class, there was almost like nothing. Or sorry, no, 2020, that was actually an okay class. But in 2021, 2022, he signed 2 cornerbacks, LT Welch and Demarius McGee, both of whom transferred. Both of whom barely did anything on the field for LSU. And that was because LSU at the time had Eli Ricks with multiple years of eligibility, superstar, starter. They had Cordell Flott, who had multiple years of eligibility left. They had Dwight McLaughlin, multiple years of eligibility, absolute stud, played a hell of a 2021 campaign. And they had Derek Stingley Jr., even though he tore his ACL in week 3, and it was his year 3, his money year, maybe he could come back. Maybe. but there was never a chance he was coming back. But still, you had those three guys. You had Eli Ricks, you had Cordell Flott, you had Dwight McGlothern, who would end up being an All-American at Arkansas. And you lost all those guys within a week, either to the NFL draft or to the portal. And it was all directly affected because you lost Corey Raymond and you fired Coach O. Almost directly because of those guys leaving. Those guys like, all right, well, this is what my future is going to be. We're going. We're leaving. That's incredible. You literally, and Brian Kelly dismissed Dwight McGlothern himself for being late to a meeting. So that kind of screwed us over, Brian Kelly doing that as well. And then firing Corey Raymond, which did not help in any way, shape, or form with us retaining Eli Ricks or, trying to keep Cordell Flott out of the draft. It's almost impossible to even see Eli Ricks, Cordell Flott, Derek Stingley Jr., or Dwight McGlothern being on a Brian Kelly team. And it's crazy how close that was to happening. And it's actually crazy that Dwight McGlothern was on a Brian Kelly team for a bit there for all of like 5 minutes. Point is, Corey Raymond didn't feel the need to recruit highly in 2021/2022 on his way out the door. And LSU, he didn't feel the need to recruit strongly because he had all these guys with multiple years of eligibility. So he just brought in LT Welch to Marius McGee to kind of supplement. Okay. Really, it was that bare bones. One of the classes, I think, had like one corner, and the other one had one. Like, it was so bad. And LSU, man, oh man, LSU paid the price for that for about 2 years, 3 years, where we had to band-aid that position in the portal with Mekhi Garner, Deuce Chestnut out of nowhere. Oh man. Some of the options were awesome, like Mekhi Garner. He was great for us, but then he was gone after a year. Derek Bernard Converse, he was great for us at corner, great for us at safety, gone after a year. You've seen Corey Raymond really make sure to end that immediately when he's been here. And DBU, man, DBU is flying high because of it. DBU is flying high because of it. Ashton Stamps, man, I know people ripped on him. He allowed 3 touchdowns. He allowed some big plays. If you actually look at the numbers, he didn't allow that much. 3 touchdowns and like over 300 yards his way. Targeted a ton. And he led the SEC in pass breakups with 14. He kind of reminds me a lot of Christian Fulton, his fellow Rummel High Raider, who he was seen in a photo today with, actually. Let me put that photo on the screen. They kind of remind me of each other. Like, they are bend, don't break type of players who they'll allow a bad touchdown and then the next play they'll get some crazy pick. Like, they battle. They never give in. They never give up. And I love that dog in both of those type of guys. I love that dog in both those players. But you've got so many options now. You've got Corey Raymond back. You've got Mansour Lane, who's going to be a starter there. You got DJ Pickett, who could start there. Ashton Stamps, who could start there. PJ Woodland, who might not be the starter, but he's going to be a strong rotational option, strong rotational piece for this program. You've got some actual pieces to this room. Jakeem Jackson, a Florida dude who came over with Corey from Florida, from his weird sabbatical at Florida. So I guess my overall point is this staff, this roster has never been better at LSU in the Brian Kelly era. Actually, it's never been better since in the post-2019 era. You can argue about the 2023 offense, and I would say yes, but we have a ton of offensive weapons. We still have a Heisman-worthy quarterback. It's the defense that's had some significant upgrades that has been so impressive and so exciting for this team and for their chances. Because you feel like the sky is really the limit when you add this much speed to this team on both sides of the ball, this much physicality, this much pedigree. I mean, there's multiple guys on this team who can squat 600 pounds. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. Uh, Damian Obi says, "Man, you're saying some real shit right now." Did you like my Corey Raymond rant? I love Corey Raymond, man. I think Corey Raymond was the man to get back. Damien says, "Man, you have a new subscriber." Holy crap, Damien, that's amazing. I was wondering, I'm like, Damien Obi, this name is new to me. I remember who watches my shows. I know there's people who maybe are like, I'm too big. I don't have the time to look at comments. I'm too special. I don't know who watches. Like, bullshit. People know who watch their show. Whether they admit it or not. They know. And I've never seen your name before, and so I'm like, oh man, this guy's cool. Damien Obi's having some great points. So man, thank you so much and welcome. We really try and cover the gamut here. And if you enjoy this, you should definitely check out LSUODYSSEY.com, where we put up a lot of writing, a lot of interviews, other video podcasts that might not always be like, mostly we're going to post any video. It's going to be on our YouTube, obviously. But at LSUODYSSEY.com, everything that we do goes directly there. So whether the video's on YouTube, Twitter, we kind of like to connect everything, not only on the site, but kind of let our people know where they can see it, whether they want to hear it or read it. We try and give our people multiple ways to do these things. Damien Obi says, Joe will, but Brad Davis probably will lose. So you're thinking we keep Joe Sloan, but we're probably going to lose Brad Davis. Man, we might lose Brad Davis after this season and keep Joe Sloan. I could see that. It's really hard to see either leave now. I mean, like, why would they? I mean, they would have after 2023. That was when they were getting so many offers. But we'll see what happens after they kind of prove to everybody what they can do with two very different quarterbacks. Joe Sloan, Brad Davis potentially, Cortez Hankton. Like, hey, we worked with two different quarterbacks and two very different offenses. This is what we did. This had nothing to do with Mike Denbrock. We are good at what we do. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe that's the case they're trying to prove. I don't know. But I know that those guys already had job offers this offseason too. They weren't interested in them. They're happy where they're at. And so it's almost hard to see those guys leave, but eventually they will. And it's all about planning for that and being ready for that, because that's college football nowadays. And LSU under Kelly, we've been extremely lucky to have the continuity we've had. Really, so supremely lucky. Sven Kreutzberg, what's up, Sven? How you doing, brother? Thank you so much for watching, my man. Sven says, Kelly is at LSU to win CS and not talking nonsense. He get royal money to do that. That's his job description. Kelly is at LSU to win championships. I guess what you're saying by CS and not talking nonsense. He get royal money to do that. That's his job description. Yep, we know he's paid $10 million a year. All that stuff. It's very obvious. Kelly. He's had a lot of time. He's had a lot of faith put into him by Scott Woodward that I feel like a lot of other head coaches would have been fired already at this point, you know? And I actively wondered during the offseason, and I'm still wondering this as well, how long should Brian Kelly get to prove he can win a championship at LSU? How long? Should that be 5 years? And if he can't win it after year 5, he's gone. I mean, half a decade to prove that maybe you can win a championship at LSU. When you came in saying you were going to win ones, we know what he had to rebuild. We know what he had to overcome. We know how bad the program was, the shape the program was. It was even worse shape than Curly Hallman's era. Kelly has brought us right back. And so it is hard to then go back to talking about, well, how long is this leash when he's put the people in the right positions to get LSU back into a successful place. It's hard to answer that question. And I think this year is really going to reveal all. And I think this is the season that will kind of split the fan base. If Kelly doesn't win a title, but say we lose in like the first playoff game, or say we lose like a third game in the SEC title game and then don't make the playoff. Something where we either barely don't make the playoff and are disappointing, or we make the playoff and we're expected to kind of go on a run and we just lose in the first game. If either of those things happen, LSU are the fan base is going to split over Brian Kelly and what to do over Brian Kelly. And you could argue that split has already happened, but I think that split will become even more deepened and even more resolved over this season, because you're going to have another Heisman-esque quarterback, and you can't waste these type of seasons. You simply just can't waste these kind of seasons when LSU didn't have a quarterback worth a hill of beans for how many years? And you hoped they could cash in when they had a guy like Rohan Davey. And we kind of did, but not really. Not as much as we should have. But for that time, winning a Sugar Bowl, that felt huge. You were hoping you could cash in with Jamarcus Russell. Beating Notre Dame in a Sugar Bowl, okay. Versus Charlie Weiss and his giant faux pas, sure, that's okay. Brady Quinn, Jeff Samardzija, okay, that's fine. We'll kick their ass. LaRon Landry's last game, okay. Jamarcus Russell should have won a national championship at LSU. Expectations not met. Zach Mettenberger. This is not on him whatsoever. He was unbelievable that season in 2012/2013. Or was it 2013/14? I'm getting those mixed up. But either way, Mettenberger, Odell Beckham Jr., Juice Landry, just putting on an offensive show that we had not seen previously at LSU with such oomph, such intensity. And you knew if we could have beaten Alabama. Who knows what happens? We probably win a national championship with Mettenberger. Instead, we lose multiple shootout type games. Our defense is terrible that season. Just like the 2023 just like the 2023 defense hurting that 2023 offense in those shootouts. Same type of scenario in 2013. And then Mettenberger gets hurt, tears his ACL, and is literally just crawling on the grass while his offensive linemen stare at him blankly and wonder what to do. I mean, those type of moments are what made LSU fans who we are. Because it's literally like getting your heart ripped out in slow motion when Mettenberger was doing that. Because it wasn't just, oh my God, now we're not going to, watch this young man get to that glorious place he deserves, and this team get to that glorious place they deserve, winning a title, competing for the SEC championship, all these things that Mettenberger was so close to achieving. Had it ripped right out of his hands, and now you also wondered about his career. You also wondered about his future now. And you knew the immediate future of that team was done. It was a soul-sucking moment. It was a just criminal, evil moment in LSU history. Mettenberger crawling, writhing in agony on the Tuscaloosa. I mean, it was just disgusting. It was disgusting against Alabama. And you failed to cash in on what was LSU's probably most exciting offense up to that point. And then you waited a long time. Yeah, you had Traven Durrell, Malachi Dupree putting on some shows. Danny Etling, you thought for maybe a millisecond he could put it together and become that juggernaut LSU quarterback, and it never quite happened. And you had to wait clear until Joe Burrow transferred in 2018. And that 2018 offense kind of sputtered and found its way and then went on an absolute heater to end that season. And then we all know what happened in 2019. You cashed in. And yes, you sort of cashed in with Jaden Daniels 4 years later. With Heisman, incredible moments and incredible wins over Florida, Texas A&M. Trying to think of some of the other big games in that 2023 season, but I keep thinking of the losses. The Florida State game, the Ole Miss game, the Alabama game where Jaden Daniels rushes for over 200 yards, throws for almost 300, and then gets cheap shotted out of the game. Once again, another that moment changes the entire season. It changes everything. Now, flash forward to Garrett Nussmeier. You cannot be so dependent on Garrett Nussmeier dropping back and throwing passes that one of those moments cost us a season and cost that young man his future. Some type of hellish twofer. We've seen way too many times at LSU. We can't have that type of stuff happening again. We need to be able to run the football, control games, kill these games off. I don't know how I even got onto this rant. I guess I'm just talking about quarterbacks and LSU cashing in on a Heisman quarterback. And you've got one this year, but despite the fact that you have a Heisman quarterback who can make every type of throw in the NFL, and he's doing it in college, you have to run the football and you have to control games, or you're going to lose more than 2 games this season. This season's all going to come down to how well LSU's offensive line plays, right? I really do think it's going to be that. If this offensive line is absolutely ghastly, this thing could be really, really, really wild. Oh my gosh, we got Poe English in the house. What is up, my man, Poe? Trying to get your comment up here. Oh man, almost exited this thing on accident. God. Poe English says, "What's going on, Lon? I must say that D-line is going to be nasty. Bro, I think it's going to be so much better than people are thinking. I think it's really going to be a beastly deep defensive front. And you can kind of include the edge rushers in that. I just think of it as like the front seven. And man, this front seven are going to be damn good. I really do think if you fail defensively with all of these guys who were successful at schools like Florida State, in a year where Florida State, if their quarterback doesn't get knocked out for the season, they're in the college football playoff. Like Jack Pyburn at Florida, yeah, we've got some guys that are from NC State or Houston, playing in some big time secondary positions, or Virginia Tech, maybe not the biggest schools right now, but in ACC, I get it. But more than the pedigree to play in this league. You still have to find that out, though. And let's don't act like there won't be growing pains. I know we're all bullish on this team, and we want to be bullish on this team. We want to feel a bit of like, hey, this team's going to come to knock your head off. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy that, watching them kick your ass. Like, that's the type of team we've got here. This is a weird comment. GD says, "Where you been, Lon? Where you been, Lon? Welcome back." What do you mean, bro? I don't know who GD is, but GD, that's a very weird comment, bro. We do so many shows and put out so many articles. I don't know what you mean. I don't know why you would say that. That's kind of weird. Surely you follow our content if you're asking that question, where we've been and all that stuff. Man, we put out a ton of stuff. Always posting on social media, always posting on our site, always writing stuff, always trying to get interviews for the show. I don't know what you mean by that, man. I'm glad that we need to welcome you back. Where have you been, bro? That's really what we need to do. Oh, man. Stan Alon says back-to-back 5-win seasons after the Natty. Ooh, wow. So you think we're going to win a national championship this year, then we lose 5 games? I mean, we only win 5 games last 2 years. Come on, man. Santalon says 35 scholarship players, and he is building the team for now as well as the future. He needs to be able to get through his contract. So, Stan, you're comfortable giving a coach a decade and $100 million to maybe just win one championship, or maybe no championships at all? You're okay with that just because he had a big hurdle to climb when he first arrived with, the mess Coach O left him. So because of that mess that Coach O left him, he's entitled to 10 years, an entire decade of LSU football to see if we can just win one? I think that's a little extreme. I mean, I think even for the biggest Brian Kelly fans, that's extreme. Stanalon says his first year we were fighting to fill a team. Let the man cook. Of course. Of course. We've literally been saying that. But at the same time, results have to happen, man. Like, we've got to have results this year. I'm not saying we're not going to have them. I'm saying I think it's really weird when people get offended and weird when people say, hey, you need to be winning now. Like, we need to question why you're here if you're not going to like deliver on everything you said you were going to, and it's been 4 years, 5 years now. I think that's crazy when people are like in such defense of Brian Kelly that it's like, yes, we should give him a free decade and a blank check of $100 million to see if he can win just one championship. That's crazy, bro. You give me a decade and $100 million at LSU, I probably would produce a championship. Like, I'm not joking. Like, the resources, the people you can hire, like, I'm not saying I have anywhere near the football coaching pedigree or anything. I'm not like, I'm not even trying to say that. I'm just saying that you give someone that much time, that much money, that much resources at a place like LSU. You allow them to fail. You allow them to learn from mistakes. You allow them to grow. You allow them to evolve. There's going to be success at some point, right? And Brian Kelly has been successful. Brian Kelly has had big time success at LSU through individual efforts, though. Jaden Daniels having that Heisman season of just excellence. Malik Neighbors. But there has not been a great team under Brian Kelly yet. Some okay teams. One of the greatest offenses in program history, the second greatest offense in program history in the 2023 offense. But we have not seen a complete team under Brian Kelly yet. And that's just the truth, brother. I'm not saying that. I'm not someone who rags on Kelly, and that's what really bothers me is that there's some people that it feels like if they criticize Kelly nonstop, it's okay. It's like no problem. And people almost think it's like funny, even if they love Kelly, that it's funny. Like if people criticize Kelly, but then it seems like if someone like myself criticizes Kelly, or even looks at something from a different perspective, people go nuts. Like, you can't rip on Kelly. You can't. How dare you go after Kelly? And it's like, we're not even going after him. We're saying this or this. Like, he needs to produce. He needs to win. Would you really give someone a free decade and $100 million to try and win one title at LSU? A place that, let's not forget, is only second to Alabama in championships won this century? That means something. I just think I think we can't be too soft about that sometimes. Damian Obi says, "What's the ceiling for Nuss?" Bro, the ceiling is like beyond the stars, in the heavens, man. Like, this kid, he can be as good as he wants to be, because people see him as a very one-dimensional quarterback, and they're wrong. They see him as a drop back pocket passer who's just, he's gonna go through his progressions and he's just gonna kind of throw darts, and he's gonna make mistakes, and he's gonna be a gunslinger, and yeah. That's not true at all from what I see with Garrett Nussmeier. From what I see with Garrett Nussmeier, he's improvising better than he's ever done before as well. That's what he was starting to really come into his own with at the end of last season. Finding guys on the secondary routes for big plays, being able to escape pressure and just make those big time bombs downfield for a Chris Hilton Jr. Just the red zone plays to Trey Green as well, finishing in the red zone with his arm, with panache. Something we should have been doing a lot more that season. Like, hey, we can't run it in from a half yard out. Okay, we need to pass it in the end zone. And who are we going to do that to? Well, do it to someone who's just an easy mismatch. A 6'7" Trey Green. 4 red zone targets last year for Trey Green. 4 red zone targets went his way. 4 red zone passes. He caught all 4 for 4 touchdowns. How about you just keep throwing it to him until they can stop it? I don't even care if he scores 5 touchdowns every game. I don't even care if has 50 touchdowns at the end of the year and the second best guy has 5. Throw Trades Green the football in the red zone until they can stop it. But there's so many ways for Garrett Nussmeier to have an absolute boundless season this year. There's so many ways for him to put up crazy, ridiculous numbers. And hey, he did last year. He's the only quarterback returning this year who threw for over 4,000 yards, threw for 29 touchdowns, and then, of course, led the SEC in interceptions, had that horrible horror show 3-game streak. But he had everything go against him to make that streak of doom possible. That streak of doom, it's not like Nuss woke up and just walked out there, I'm going to throw some interceptions and we're going to get some fumbles. You watch him trying to win the game for LSU. You watch the first half of that A&M game, and we're just carving A&M to pieces. They make the change at quarterback. They get that interception. Everything changes. If Garrett Nussmeier can make the right decisions, and he's going to have more guys in his face this year than he did last year. That was a solid pass blocking offensive line unit last year. If he can make the right decisions passing the football, if he can improvise in these big moments, if he can connect with these just line of weapons, a literal line of what you got. Chris Hilton Jr., you got Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, Kyle Parker, Destin Hill. I mean, Trades Green is like a receiver tight end hybrid. I mean, Aaron Anderson led your offense in receiving last year. And we're naming him 6th. Not because we forgot about him, but because that's how much freaking talent you have there. This is a ridiculous offense. And this is an absolute outrageous amount of weapons. There's no way Garrett Nussmeier should be throwing less than 45 touchdowns this year. And really, I would challenge him to throw 9, 10 interceptions maybe this season. And to help him do this, to help him win games, to help take some of that pressure off his shoulders, we need to run the football at the end of games to close games out. Not throw the ball on 3rd and 4 with 1:58 left, and the other team has 3 timeouts, 2 timeouts. They don't even have to stop the clock because we're still throwing the damn ball. Some of the situations you see that LSU was in last year. When you go back and watch the film, you're like, what the hell were we doing? And it was like, oh, wait, I get why we weren't running the football. We knew there would be no way if we ran the ball that we would even get it. So yeah, they would waste time out of theirs to stop the clock, but they would still have 150, and we're just not going to get that. We're not going to be able to run the ball to get that first down. So why don't we throw it with Nuss, where we actually are going to have a chance to actually get the first down? And that's what they would do, even at the expense of stopping the clock. These things cost you close games. Being way too one-dimensional as an offense, being way too one-dimensional as a quarterback, cost you games. And Nuss, the problem is not him being one-dimensional as a quarterback. The problem is the offense around him has been one-dimensional until now. We wrote a piece that goes in depth called, if you go to LSU's site, LSUODYSSEY.com, you go to the content homepage and you search Juggernaut. You'll find our article from a month ago talking about how this offense Maybe it won't be. Maybe it, won't turn out to be, but it should be a juggernaut. You type in the word juggernaut, you're going to read our article that covers why this offense should be a juggernaut offense. Maybe it won't be, but it damn well should be. And Garrett Nussmeier, the ceiling for him this year, it's really boundless. And as far as an NFL career, I think he'll do damn good in the NFL. It's kind of hard for me to really project that because I think I can project dual threat quarterbacks and the future of dual threat quarterbacks better for me as an analyst more than I can pocket passers. But I think Garrett Nussmeier, he's got the football IQ. He's got the football brain. It's just really getting that play calling, getting the O-line, getting the running game, getting everything around him, the weapons that he can trust to really take this thing home. And I think unless his focus is elsewhere, unless he's mentally not tough enough, mentally not ready, which I think is just not true at all, and I think is completely just not really a factor. I think unless that happens, we're going to have an amazing season here from Garrett Nussmeier that really, hopefully, will be wow. Looking back on, we'll remember Garrett Nussmeier for this season and remember him for the fact that he stayed for LSU. Carl Dunn, what's up, brother? Carl. LSU Odyssey's legendary special guest, Carl Dunn. He says, MLB draft in 20 minutes. Let's go. Cade Anderson, number 1. LSU have multiple number 1 picks. It's just nuts, guys. It's just crazy. I told you Carl's more into LSU baseball. Standalone says he was figuring out players and coaches. That's why he had things like the firing of Corey Raymond and the rehiring, getting us to the SEC Championship game in 2023. He actually got us to the SEC Championship game. Yeah, you corrected yourself. Yep, it was 2022. Yeah, I get that. But you don't fire Corey Raymond at that time. I really don't think so. I mean, I love Robert Steeples. And I'm so glad that Kelly did do what he did, because if he didn't, I wouldn't have met Robert Steeples. I wouldn't have been able to be friends with Robert Steeples. So I'm glad personally that he did that, so I could meet Robert Steeples and have his friendship. But you never should have fired Corey Raymond. And really, if you didn't, you would have maybe had a good chance of keeping Eli Ricks. Corey would have kept Eli Ricks on board for sure, at least for that year. And maybe you lose Flott, but you definitely also keep McLaughlin if Kelly doesn't just go crazy and fire him for being 5 minutes late, which Corey Raymond would have smoothed over and been like, "You're never gonna be late again, bro. Coach ain't gonna play around, But to the coach, hey man, you need to chill a bit, whatever. You needed that balance. I think Kelly's now got to that place where he's got that balance. He's realized we're not paying a cent for these damn players. We're not paying a cent. We're not paying for players. He's realized that doesn't work. He's realized very quickly that was not how it was going to be. And I understand the quote was taken out of context. He was saying more, we're not going to throw around all these crazy numbers for kids. They were paying players, and they have been paying players, and they have to pay players. But Brian Kelly's at that point where he has evolved, and he is at the peak ascension for his time at LSU. And how long he can keep this going, man, I would love to see Kelly keep this going for as long as possible and start a freaking dynasty. I mean, if Kelly can have LSU competing for a championship the next few years. He can stay as long as he wants. He'll win. He'll win at some point. He'll win one at some point. He'll win multiple at some point. But this is a team where, I mean, guys, I really do believe it's a litmus test. You've got all the raw materials here to be a great team in a weaker SEC, weaker at-large college football landscape. Last year was an absolute atrocity that LSU did not make the playoff. An absolute atrocity that LSU did not make the playoff. It was an absolute disgusting sin that LSU did not make the playoff in 2024. All they had to beat was a 4-5 Florida team, and LSU would have been in the playoff. As bad as they were. That's how weak the modern day, right now, this current era of college football is. In 2023, it was the same. If we had just beaten Ole Miss, Alabama, just one of those games, one of those two games, or didn't get destroyed by Florida State as well, we don't lose one of those games, even with two losses. Even with two losses, we are one of the top 4 teams in that college football playoff in 2023. And everyone damn well knows we would have been in there. They would have been like, Jaden Daniels has to be in this Final Four. We have to put him in there. And LSU would have won the whole thing. Because if we would have, beaten those teams and survived enough to get into the playoff, Whit Weeks would have been starting, or one of those decisions would have been changed that Matt House made that screwed us up. But maybe it's a blessing in disguise, because maybe then Matt House would have still been our defensive coordinator. But the last 2 years, very weak at SEC, very weak college football landscape. You are so lucky as a head coach, Brian Kelly, as a program, to see this again for a third year. Where college football, the SEC landscape, it hasn't figured itself out yet with the arrival of Texas and Oklahoma. Everything is still kind of shook up in the air. Some teams are really kind of all over the place, kind of frazzled mentally. Really had a lot of crazy offseason wars trying to just keep guys on the roster. Not to mention trying to go out and get talent as well. But there's a lot of teams that just barely saved face in their roster additions or roster retention. Okay, LSU cut the fat. They got rid of dead weight, and they added absolute, just clean, trim, high quality additions, one after another. Guys who don't all have to be apex successful as individuals if they're all just even average. Like Berrien Brown doesn't get over 1,000 yards receiving, doesn't get 10 plus touchdowns. If Berrien Brown just gets 670 yards and 5 or 6 touchdown catches, his presence would still open up the offense so much for Chris Hilton Jr., Aaron Anderson, for those guys to absolutely go off. We all know it. So there's weapons all over the place, defensively, offensively. If Blake Baker can figure out how to use Harold Perkins to the best of his abilities at that star position, that's one key question. If Brad Davis can figure out the offensive line, that's another question. These two big questions right here. I think the secondary is figuring itself out. I think the defensive line is kind of figuring itself out and in such a good spot. But offensive line, can they pass block? Can they run block? What are we going to do there? Who's going to start? Who are going to be the guys? Are we going to trust some of the younger guys? That is such a big issue alongside right there with Harold Perkins. Because if you can figure out how to use Harold Perkins to his utmost potential, as a football player. There is nothing in LSU's way from winning a national championship. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. If you can figure out a way to get Harold Perkins to that place where we know he can be at the Arkansas game, 2022. But then you combine that with what he did against Mizzou in coverage in 2023. Against Luther Burden. An interception, only allowing one catch for 4 yards, 2 pass breakups, complete shut-down coverage. You put those worlds together. The edge rusher against Arkansas with 4.5 sacks. The coverage guy against Mizzou. You marry those two together. You unleash Whit Weeks. You get the rotation right. You might have yourself a top 10 defense. You figure out that offensive line right with Alex Atkins coming in there, and fantastic hire. You really can take this offense to a juggernaut level. Because this offense might already be capable of just churning off yards, churning out tons of points, just with all these guys playing to their kind of average. If you can see these guys playing their utmost, we could have 3,000-yard receivers, and I wouldn't bat an eyelash. And that's insane to say. That is insane to say. Jerry Zimmerman with a very interesting comment. I'm not sure who he's asking this question of. Jerry, I hope you're still here. We're going to try and put your comment up here. He says, I don't know why this won't load. Jerry Zimmerman says, okay. God. I should have used the iPad. Jerry Zimmerman says, okay, get rid of Kelly. Who you replace him with? I am definitely not advocating to get rid of Brian Kelly. I don't know if you're interpreting what I said as that. I absolutely have not advocated to get rid of Brian Kelly in any way, shape, or form. I was merely asking the question of, do you give a guy a decade and $100 million to prove he can just win once at LSU? I felt like that's extreme. So I'm not really, my mind's not on who the replacement of Kelly is. I don't really have time for that. Like, I don't really think about, okay, who's going to replace Kelly, because Brian Kelly's not going anywhere for the time being. Randy Jones is in the house. What's up, Randy? How you doing, Randy? How you doing, my brother? We've got a lot of great listeners in the house tonight. Let's groove tonight. Once again, my laptop's a little screwy right now, and so I was using the iPad, but I was like, let's just use the my phone. This will be fine. This will be more casual and comfortable. And I'm like, ugh. Wish I had used the iPad. Randy Jones says, Carl the Cat, I am ready. He's talking about that MLB draft. Great pregame draft show on MLB Network. They are showing the draft 5 to 8 on ESPN and 5 to 10 on MLB Network. Tony V is in the center seat on MLB Network. Badass jazz. Tony V, is that Tony Vitello? that what you're saying? Vitello is in the house? Oh, God. Randy Jones says, "What's up, my man, Lon? Love your show, bro. Thank you so much, man. That means a lot. If you love this show, I try and make sure the writing is just as good, if not better. There's people like my man Harold. You guys might know Harold. Harold Woods, absolute badass. From Twitter. I know a lot of people know him. He was saying, "Hey, your writing is where it's at. People don't want to hear you talk. They want to just read your writing." And for a moment, I kind of believed him, but then I saw that there was so many other people who actually like our show when we're talking and only have time and only want to engage with that side of it. They don't have time to read. They're not really a reader, whatever. And I kind of was like, no, man, we got to serve both of these audiences in a way. And there's a lot of times with key points that I've made in my writing that I'm like, well, that's kind of the tenets of what I believe in about this team or about this player, whatever it might be, that I then will share as well in the podcasts or vice versa to kind of have some continuity as well. We're never going to kind of fake it or anything. We're going to tell you what we think and how we feel, and we're going to give it to you straight. And we can agree, we can disagree. That's fine. That's what college football, being a fan, is all about. And thank you so much for being here. Seriously, Randy, that's awesome. That is awesome to see you back in the saddle with us. And then Randy Jones also says, "Uncle Sven, what's up, my baw?" Trying to get these damn comments to show. I know they're showing on the stage little thing, so that's fine. I just was trying to highlight some of your guys' comments, and my phone's kind of getting shitty. It's getting to that point where I'm going to need to replace it soon. And so it's just kind of it's just the touch thing is not so perfect. So it's not showing certain things. It takes forever to get some of these things to highlight. Randy Jones says, "I see where y'all got that Parker twin committed, but he going pro just like 3 or 4 or more of ours are." Randy Jones says, "Damian Obi, brother Lon keeps it a 100. We try, my man. There's no other reason to do it any other way." There's a lot of guys who won't report certain things, won't talk about certain things because they know it's going to get them in trouble with LSU. Trust me, we've had those calls. "What are you doing reporting that? How could you report that? The coaches are so pissed off at you." I've had it. I've had the coaches text me and try and literally intimidate the shit out of me. Try and get me to delete things, try and get me to reveal sources. I've had this happen. But I understand that they're doing their jobs. And that's exactly what their job has to be. But I'm going to do mine. And we are never going to just say, "Hey, LSU, pump this, pump that sunshine nonstop." We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. And it's not because, "Well, you don't love LSU." It's actually, we love LSU enough that we can tell it the truth. How you can tell your wife after 20 years, "Hey, you don't look good in that dress. Don't wear that thing." You can't tell her that after going out with her for 2 days. She's gonna dump your ass. You could tell her that after 20 years. We try and just keep it straight, whether it's whatever, however we feel about it is how we feel about it. Or if we are given information that can be verified by multiple credible sources, stuff that we know to be true, stuff that we know to be... we've broken enough stories at this point that became national news while everyone was going, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" To kind of say, we've seen this, how this works. We've seen how this can work. And the college football world is very interesting right now. It's never been more dramatic behind the scenes. And some of these tales will come to light at some point. But LSU have a major opportunity here to really profit off of the major distractions and drama off the field from some of their competitors, some of their rivals, who've really been in the NIL transfer portal wars just to retain guys. LSU kind of like ripped the Band-Aid off and were like, okay, we're not gonna debate about this or get into a bidding war. If you want to leave, to go to Ole Miss, say for example, Sage Ryan, just go, and then he left, and then LSU moved on, and like, I'm not saying that was right or wrong. We'll see how that ends, but LSU made certain decisions to clear things up within their roster and their staff, as you saw them getting rid of some of the support staffers that completely cleared the way for Jeff Martin, Kelvin Bolden, and Sam Petito to come back. All of this, I mean, is it the best 7 days in Brian Kelly's tenure? Probably, because it just shows you the signal of intent. We're here to stay. We're here to win, and we're not going anywhere. And we're going to protect the state of Louisiana way more than you can even fathom now when you have Frank Wilson and Sam Petito and Cortez Hankton and Joe Sloan and Brad Davis. And, I mean, just the list goes on. Kyle Williams and Kevin freaking Peoples, who really did the job here with Lamar Brown and Trenton Henderson, 2 5-stars for that man, and his development of Braden Swinson. Had the most sacks at LSU in a single season last year, the most since Arden Key broke the record at the program record in 2017. So Kevin Peoples doing some absolute work at LSU, but you've got so many guys here who can absolutely build that fence around the state of Louisiana for quite some time. And also go out and grab players from key states. Go out and get some Georgia guys. Go out, get some Mississippi guys. Go out, get the Texas guys. Steal some of the Texas guys, like we did with Caden Durham. We went and we got Caden Durham while they were going with Reuben Owens. Look at that. Look at that dichotomy right there. Look at that dichotomy. Okay? That's what we're talking about. Those are the type of wins and the outcomes that can change everything. While Dylan Moses left LSU for Alabama and was winning national championships, or even he lost one to Clemson as well, but still in title games, while LSU were literally nowhere to be found on the college football landscape map. So, like, you get these big recruiting wins, it really can reverberate. But it's not just getting these big recruiting wins, it's like literally the effect it has on the opponent as well as the effect it has on your actual roster. It goes both ways, strengthening yourself while weakening the opponent. That is what Brian Kelly, that is what Austin Thomas, that is what Scott Woodward, that is what this program have done in the last 7 days by securing the commitments and most likely the signings of Lamar Brown and Trenton Henderson, 2 5-stars. Then DeAnthony Lafayette, high 3-star DE as well. And then you go and you grab 3 of the best football minds from 3 of the top rival programs, programs that have beaten LSU or just recently won a championship, whether that's Petito at Ohio State and bringing him back, a Saban mind, back into the building, back into the state of Louisiana, a place you never thought you would get him back to. Jeff Martin at USC, a team that beat us in the opener last year. You get him back home. Kelvin Bolden, a guy Austin Thomas worked with, he brings him back. Or, sorry, not brings him back, brings him to the state of Louisiana. I mean, it's a stacking of talent. It's a stacking of brilliant football minds that you've got to hand it to Brian Kelly here. But at the same time, as much as it gives Kelly like a ton of like cachet, as much as it gives Kelly a ton of, how do I say this? It gives Brian Kelly a ton of political capital. It gives him a ton of wiggle room for this season, right? I don't think so. I think it just gives people a lot of good vibes going into this season. The same expectations are going to arrive week 1 against Clemson, right out the gates, just like last year. But the pressure is going to be times 10 higher for if LSU to lose a 6th straight opener. The unacceptability of everything with the Kelly era gets to a gross statement. And also, the whole conversation becomes really warped and really diluted and really weird. And maybe not very accurate. And maybe it takes a turn for the dishonest as well. And maybe things get more embellished than they should. And people think he's worse than he actually was. And it just becomes a mob to just get this guy out. A lust for blood, which we know our fans can have. So, Kelly has to produce this year. He has to produce. There's no other way. Kelly has to produce. Has to produce. If he can't, there's going to be a weird set of falling dominoes that go in a different direction. That might not be too pretty for the future of LSU. Which would look so many wins. But you have a sequence of bad losses again this year. Things can change really quickly. Really quickly. And I know you all know that. And it starts with week 1. I really, at this point, I think it's almost like Brian Kelly has to win. Like do you really honestly think that we can go through another week 1 defeat to Clemson here? We lose to Clemson week 1. That's our 6th straight opening defeat. I don't know if we can do that. I don't know. It's insane. It's insane. I just don't think we can. Can we stomach that? Can we get over that? Can we get past that? I'm not sure. Everybody, thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us and commenting, because my gosh, your guys is, what you guys say kind of like drives half the conversation. I'll have things I want to talk about and kind of things I want to hit on and points I want to make and stuff and things I want to share with you. Either information we've got or insights or whatever it is. But then there's so many times that we go down these rabbit holes because you guys have like a crazy good question. And it's like, oh my God, that's a great question. Let's just go down this rabbit hole. Let's go. And you're commenting back, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. We got to shoot back and forth and go back and forth, get this comment involved with this, like it's so interactive and it's fun. I love this new format of doing this show. And we're going to keep this rolling. It's about momentum. Life is about momentum. And once you get it, you feel it, you're stupid if you don't do anything to keep it going. I've had momentum, I've lost it. I've had things going for me, I've lost it. We've come back we've had people turn their back on us, come back before, it's happened. But thank you for being with us now. And thank you for joining us today. Because that's what matters. That's what we're here. We are in the moment. And what could be more beautiful than that, Tiger fans? What could be more beautiful than that? Can't wait for this season to start, guys. I see all these comments. I wish I could actually get them to post. They're posting on the side, but thank you all for the incredible support. Randy said he signed up for the Purple Rain plan. The one thing I will say, the Purple Rain plan is kind of it's a one writing. It's like an unreleased writing that we did about the 2019 team. But if you want the subscription for things as they're coming, breaking news, predictions like we did for the Lamar Brown prediction and the intel, which was correct. When people are saying he's going to A&M, we put out he's going to LSU. That turned out to be correct. Subscribers would have known that. That's the same thing. We did that with DJ Pickett. We've had some mistakes. We've made some mistakes, of course. But we're not going to be putting that type of stuff out without having some type of background to prove that, hey, we do kind of know what's up. But it's about just loving LSU, and who cares about that type of stuff? For me, if someone else breaks the news, I don't. Whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, if it happens to be me, great. I just find it to be a privilege to cover LSU every day, whether that's as an independent writing for someone else. Like, I think it's a very cool thing to own your own thing, like we do. I think it's really the entrepreneurial spirit of my family to do what I'm doing, and the journalistic spirit of my family as well. My mom was a journalist for quite many years, won some awards covering as a food critic, actually. But yeah, we've just really wanted this to be a fun thing to do and to be as successful as it could possibly be without selling our soul to some weird altar of ego and narcissism and maniacal craziness. We just wanted to kind of see if it could be done right. And so far, with your guys' support and just kind of, you guys know the content creation game. It's about who can survive the longest. We've been doing this since 2018. You can find our writings about LSU clear back to 2018. I don't think you can really say that about too many people who aren't writing for a newspaper or a website or do a podcast or a radio show. Those guys like a Muscana or a Shea Dixon or T-Bob, even though he doesn't for LSU but anymore. But all those guys, they've been around for a long time because they've been with corporate media. They've been going from, they're writing at one place, they write at another. I'm not like ripping on that at all. I'm saying that's how they came up. They got their degree, the journalistic degree. They kind of went the more traditional path in journalism, and my path wasn't even possible until COVID happened. So, I mean, we actually lived that moment where we're doing all these articles, we're doing all these podcasts, we're doing all these weird interviews with random LSU Tigers, former or current, to try and entertain the fan base that was like desperate for entertainment. The news was so terrible. All the horrible things that were going on in 2020 with the riots and the COVID and the lockdowns and all of it. And we felt like whether the world's ending or not, like our mission is going to be two things, like take care of our family, be in the moment with Chelsea. We didn't have kids yet. And kind of watch out for her health, because her health was really not good at that time. Now she's way better, but at the time it's kind of worrying for me in that position, because you just didn't know what to believe in the first bit of COVID. But luckily we never got vaccinated, so and we are very happy we did not get vaccinated. Chelsea actually led that charge. She was very worried about it, and we did not, and thank God. But during that time, it was like, one, watch out for Chelsea's health, and then two, entertain the fan base. Like, let's try and do what we can, because all the corporate media was shut down. Everything was shut down. And so I kind of felt like it was up to us to like do this. And it was a cool moment where the fan base kind of hung together in the foxhole. But I'm so glad that we will never hopefully never relive the horrors of 2020 again, because that was just absolute hell with the whole lockdowns and all that. Who knows what to believe, and all the people getting so political that their heads would fall off, and just the madness of all of it. But it gave rise to a weird alternative new form of media, which we were well on the forefront of. And so was a guy like, Jake Crane, who's now done Crane and Company. He was a part of that wave as well. There was a lot of people who were part of that wave who are now gone on to being very successful. Such a weird time. Sorry, guys, I just totally ranted my head off about like nothing. GD asks, and I wish I could show his comment, but he says, who will be the first wide receiver to transfer? What do you mean? Like on our roster, like next year? Or right now? Who will be the first wide receiver to transfer right now before the season? You think, I mean, it is a crowded room. I was shocked that they all stayed. Not going to lie. I was waiting for Kyle Parker to transfer. I was waiting for a few other names that I almost just blurted out, but thank God I have some type of control and did not. I was waiting for some guys to leave, because once we got that influx of Destin Hill, Nick Anderson, Barian Brown, you're kind of like, whoa. I thought we were going to get, two big time guys, and that was going to be, we got three. Now we move Trades Green outside to, like, what? Like, now you got a crowded room. Well, I don't think anyone's going to be leaving, because I think every one of those guys feels like they could be a starter. And I think you're going to see so many different combinations of starters this season at receiver, because if I'm Cortez Hankton, I want to put out the best profiles to burn each and every team matchup-wise. And that might mean using a guy that hasn't caught the football or even gotten a target in 2 games against another team. Like, that's, I want to have a consistent lineup, sure, but at the same time, you could really absolutely gut opponents this year mismatch-wise with these receivers. I don't expect too many of these receivers to transfer. Randy, message me on Twitter and I will hook you up with a free LSU Odyssey subscription for our breaking news and like tidbit info and stuff like that. That's not included with the Purple Rain plan, which I think you were likely purchasing that thinking that was also included. That just includes that unreleased huge writing. I think it's like 200 pages or something. We will hook you up with that free plan just because I'm sure that was an honest mistake, and we want you to get, if you want the best, you got it. The hottest band in the land, Kiss. We're trying to be the one-stop shop for LSU fans, and probably not there yet. There's definitely better sites than ours. We could definitely get some web designer in to spruce our site up and take it to another level. And in time, we're going to be doing all of this stuff to give everything a proper facelift and get to that professional ultimate level. And thank you guys for being patient with us as we try and get to that point. It really means a lot because you guys have a ton of options with LSU of who you want to listen to, who you want to watch, who you want to read, and so who you trust. The fact that any of you guys even include me on your list at any point in time is awesome. But we're going to try and continue to do work that will be deserving of that. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. It's on the precipice of the end of the weekend. Have a good one, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Go Tigers, baby.